So in today's episode of Stauffer Garage, we're going to be detailing this 2003 Porsche 911 Carrera 4S with a 6-speed manual transmission on the inside and the outside. And you can probably tell the outside definitely needs it cleaned, but the inside does as well. Everything needs to be wiped down. All of the cracks and crevices have dust and dirt in them. But we're going to make this thing look like new by the end of this video, so stick around for those after shots. And if you're not subscribed, go ahead and smash that subscribe button down below. Go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. Let's go ahead and get started. Now, the one thing about this vehicle is it's actually almost all original. The owner even has the original service manual in the car, the original floor mats. This thing was definitely well taken care of, but we're going to go ahead and start with getting these floor mats vacuumed and start getting our extractor solution sitting inside those carpet fibers so it can kind of do its work. And I typically like to let that sit in there for about 10 minutes or so that way all of that dirt can start breaking down before we agitate it with the drill brush and then extract it afterwards. So before we get too far into this video, I do want to announce that in last week's video, I gave away a Sandia 5100 extractor. All you guys had to do was comment down below. And the winner from last week's video is Zachary Guesnon. And I'm excited for him to get his extractor. He's excited for his dad to get a chance to use it. So once again, congrats, Zach, for winning that extractor. Now, the one thing that I do recommend is if you are vacuuming your own vehicle, make sure you pick up some sort of vacuum. Like this one I use is called the VacMaster Beast. They're fairly decently priced. They're like $100 on Amazon, but make sure whatever vacuum you get does come with some sort of crevice tool like this one here. It does help with getting into all those different corners, especially if you don't pull your seats between that armrest and center console and any different little spots that are hard to reach that you typically wouldn't be able to get to. Now, some of you might not know that Porsche 911s are actually 4-seaters and there are rear seats in the back. The rear seats actually just Velcro down to the carpeted floor here. So once those were removed out, there was a lot of underlying dirt that probably would have never been vacuumed up if I didn't pull these out. So I know the owner is going to be happy to see that this area was cleaned as well. Now that the floor mats have soaked for quite a while, we're going to be using our drill brush to agitate the fibers of all of the floor mats. And to be honest, one thing I like to do is use the drill brush in one direction and then switch it to the next and kind of do 2 passes before I hit it with my extractor, which is just filled with plain old hot water. Now, one common sense piece of advice is if you have a battery powered drill, to make sure that your batteries are charged. That was one mistake that I made when I started this detail. I had to wait a little bit of time before I could actually drill brush these carpets because I forgot to charge my batteries. So both were completely dead. But yeah, that just happens sometimes. So make sure your batteries are charged if you have a drill brush. And when it comes to any carpet whatsoever, I like to, extract in one direction, and then I usually do a 90-degree orientation difference to extract it once again to make sure I got all of the, dirt and extractor fluid out of the carpet itself. Now, for these being original floor mats from 2003, I'm actually impressed with how clean they are. They were well taken care of, obviously, and the owner definitely took care of getting his shoes clean before getting in the car, especially during the winter times. But just the bases of the floor mats were dirty, so they didn't need a ton of work or 2 passes. Just 1 pass was sufficient with getting out all of those different spots that were dirty. When you see this extractor fluid pour, it makes you think, where was that dirt coming from? And it sometimes is surprising with how much you can extract, especially from, light colored or somewhat clean looking floor mats. Now for these door panels, I'm using my detailing brushes and all-purpose cleaner to agitate not only the plastic leather parts, but also the carpeted down below, because they weren't overly dirty. They just needed a little bit of agitation, and then my microfiber towel to wipe those clean and kind of help, remove any extra fluid or dirt that's in that carpet. And once they're all clean with all-purpose cleaner, I'm using my interior detailing top coat just to kind of add some sort of UV protection to them, but also a nice shine that's not oily that I like to apply after I've got those panels cleaned. Now, even though we're going to be washing the car later on, I like to use my waterless car wash to kind of spray down the doors along with those door jambs on the inside to kind of get that paint and inside those door jambs completely cleaned, because sometimes it's harder to wash those areas, especially after you have the interior completely cleaned, to get those cleaned up. This shifter boot is actually a perfect example of what can happen over time as the leather gets really, really hard and stiff if it's not conditioned regularly. But even then, over time, that does happen. So if you're ever looking to kind of, spruce up your car, if it's older, or if that leather shift boot, even if it's an automatic, is worn out, it's one easy thing that you can replace for actually a fairly decent price. They're not very expensive typically to replace on your own. That can kind of make your car look, a lot better really quickly. Now, despite the rest of the car not being overly dirty, the fact that these visor mirrors were as filthy as they were is hard to even describe. I try to show it in the before shots, but these things took more time to clean than the entire dashboard took to clean. That's how dirty they were. Now for the leather seats, I'm just using my leather cleaner, followed up with my leather top coat to condition those seats to keep them pliable, but also to protect them from UV rays as well. In the past several videos, I've used these orange microfiber blocks. They're actually used for applying ceramic coating, but I found them to be quite useful for applying leather conditioner as well. One thing that I've been adding to my standard regimen when it comes to detailing interiors is just using my steam cleaner to blow out the air vents. One, because sometimes it's hard to get all of the dirt out of them and it helps blow some of that out. But also air vents can get moldy and bacteria can form, and also odors can linger in there. So just using steam to pump through that entire system is a nice thing to add to your detailing regimen. Sometimes when I'm detailing cars, what can happen is I'll actually find something that's broken or not working properly, and just as a nice little additive or just as proper maintenance, I try to see if it's something that I have laying around that I can help the owner out by replacing for free, just as a nice little extra touch. And one thing about these rear seats is because they are Velcroed in, the actual adhesive that, sticks to the car on both sides of the Velcro was worn out. So I had some extra Velcro laying around, and I went ahead and put new Velcro in, which, it's just a nice added little extra touch to, make sure that, the car is good when it goes back to the owner. Now that the interior is done, we're going to start working on the outside. And one thing that you can tell from these, just initial rinse shots is this car is actually ceramic coated already. The owner had done a ton of work to get this thing completely, paint corrected and, taken care of. But one thing that can happen, even if you have a ceramic coating, is you can still get your paint scratched. And you can kind of see after this car is washed that there are some lingering scratches. But because even the wheels were ceramic coated and the paint was, the owner told me just to kind of, wash the car, do a dual bucket method and, foam cannon and just leave it at that. And that way that top coat doesn't get affected for now. But you can see how much the water beads off with a ceramic coating. And it's definitely something I would recommend if you have the opportunity to get done. Now with the foam cannon taking off that initial layer of dirt that rinses off easily, you can tell how pretty this color is. It's almost like a navy dark blue, but in certain conditions it looks purple. It's such a cool color that Porsche has for these 911s, and it's honestly, if you've ever owned one or seen one in person, you know exactly what I mean. It's definitely a cool color. Now, like I mentioned, this car was completely ceramic coated, including the wheels. It was to the point that the barrels of these things barely had a speck of dirt on them. You can see that some of it's coming off, but I haven't ever detailed a car with cleaner barrels than this. And it definitely shows that the owner of this vehicle took extremely good care of it. Now, if you're ever looking to pick up these drying towels, I'll have them back in stock on Fox Clean in hopefully the next month or two. You guys completely just wiped out my entire inventory and picked these up, and I completely understand why, because these things, just this one towel can dry an entire car, and not only just a small car like this, a full-size SUV. So I'll have those back in stock shortly, and if you need to pick up any other detailing supplies, make sure you join that mailing list, so if I have updates or new product comes back in stock, you'll be the first to know. Always make sure that you wipe down your door jambs and underneath your trunk, make sure all that water is taken care of. But then also when I apply my tire dressing, one thing I like to do is use my detailing brushes to go around to get into all those different little edges that are sometimes hard to get to between the rim and the tire itself. It's just a nice little extra step to make sure you go that extra mile and get every spot covered. I will say after detailing this car, I have an appreciation for this era of 911s more than ever. And I actually asked the owner how much this car cost him when he bought it a couple years ago, and he said it only cost him about 25 grand to pick it up with about 60,000 miles. So definitely something to think about, and definitely a cool car. Maybe that might be one that I might have to pick up in my future because it is a fun car to drive. So thank you guys for watching today's video, and I'll see you guys next week.